What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is me, Jelly the Casual Card Gamer, and today we're going to be looking at a deck that I have had my eye on for quite a bit. We have Hexaorb Sorceress. Now, the reason why I love this deck so much, or at least the idea of the deck so much, is because it reminds me of my dear old clan Oracle Think Tank. And for those of you that didn't already know, Oracle Think Tank was one of the most consistent decks that I played during the Limit Break era. I used to play Battle Sisters, and then now I have Suzano. So that is the the background behind this deck. So anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into this deck profile. Now, to start us off, let's go with the right deck, of course. So first card we have here is Hexaorb Sorceress. When rode upon, if you went second, you get to draw a card. Very, very generic. Next, we have Hexaorb Sorceress. When this card is rode upon by Penta Sorceress, you can counterblast one to draw a card. Her second ability is when you drive check a trigger, then you can counterblast one and return one of your opponent's rear guards to the bottom of their deck. It is limited to once per turn, but still really good. And considering that the deck doesn't use too many counterblasts, nice. Especially if you have two of them on the field and you're just swiping two cards, which is really, really annoying. Next, we have Penta Sorceress. When rode upon by Hexaorb Sorceress, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, rearrange them in any order you like, and put them back on the top of your deck. And when she is placed on rear guard, you can look at the top part of your deck and put it back on top, or put it on the bottom. If you put it on the bottom, she gains +2 until the end of the turn. And last but not least, the Lady of the Hour, we have Hexaorb Sorceress. Her ability is when you drive check a trigger, you can give one of your rear guards 10k. So basically, as long as she's boosting, if your opponent does 1 to pass, 2 to pass is technically 1 to pass, or if they do no pass, then it's 2 to pass. Something along the lines of that, depending on, of course, the numbers, but generally that's the rule. So her second ability is act once per turn. You can counterblast 1, soul blast 1. If you persona road that turn, you can reveal a front trigger or critical trigger from your hand, put it on top of your deck, and Hexaorb Sorceress gains 1 drive check. Now that's really good for being able to add to the cheese, because you are forcing, every time you persona ride, forcing an endgame, basically. If your opponent's at 4 damage and they know you have a crit on top, they have to guard your Vanguard. So that is it for the ride deck. Moving on to the grade 3s, we have our other 3 copies of Hexaorb Sorceress. It is not focusing. There we go. And 3 copies of Knight of War Damage Fasado. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what this card does, but just in case, if you don't, he has resist, basically. He can't be targeted by, or can't be chosen by your opponent's card effects. And when he hits, you can soul charge and counter charge 1, which is really good because he doesn't have to hit a Vanguard, just has to hit. So that is really good, especially when he's being pumped up by Hexaorb. Next, to our grade 2s, we have Penta Sorceress and 4 copies of Gold Gown. Now, I already talked about Penta, so we're just going to go straight to Gold Gown. Gold Gown does a really good job of helping this deck have an early game, because you do run I do run a lot of grade 1s, but I don't like putting down Penta Sorceresses down early, because I really like to reserve her ability for making sure that Hexaorb really pushes for bigger numbers. But of course, every once in a while I do. But if I do have Gold Gown early game, then I do put it down as quickly as possible, because its ability is when it is placed, you can soul blast 1, choose a grade 1 card from your hand, call it to the rear guard, and it gains +5. So if, for example, you're at grade 2, you can call Gold Gown, bring down maybe a Hexaorb Sorceress, you have 3 lanes, or you could call down something behind here or here, and it just helps get those numbers higher, just in case your opponent is into early guarding. But anyway, that is it for the grade 2s. Next, we have our grade 1s. So of course we run our 4 PGs. No need to explain what these bad dragons do. Next, we have 3 tier square sorceresses. These names are so hard to say. Of course, like I said earlier, once per turn, if you drive check a trigger, counterblast 1, return one of your opponent's rear guards to the bottom of their deck. And next, we have 4 copies of Painkiller Angel. At the end of the battle that it boosted, Soul Blast 1, retire the unit, draw a card. Just helps us get through the deck a little bit faster. If you draw triggers, it's sad, but it's also, of course, part of Vanguard. And I do understand that there's a lot of soul blasting going on. We have Gold Gown, we have Painkiller Angel, and we also have Divine Sister Tartine, whose ability is when placed on rear guard, rest her, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Then take one, put it on top, take the other, put it on the bottom. And it is really good for setting up Hexaorb Sorceress, because if you don't know what the top card of your deck is, or what the top 2 cards of your deck is, you can activate Tartine first, and then activate Hexaorb Sorceress' second ability on a Persona Ride turn. Or if you're just on a regular Hexaorb turn without a Persona Ride, or your first grade 3 turn where you don't have the option to do that, you can always use Tartine to hopefully set up some kind of trigger activation for you during the drive checks. But anyway, that is almost it for the grade 1s. Last grade 1 that we run here is 2 Knight of Heavenly Wind of Vachel. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, but her ability is when she boosts, she gains 2k. So she becomes a 10k booster and helps get the extra bit of guard out initially, and of course Hexaorb being able to pump a lane for 20k every time she triggers really does make it annoying to have to think about how to guard against. So really good generic card. I'm thinking of even dropping 2 of the Painkiller Angels for another 2 copies of her, just because she actually stays on the field. But anyway, that is it for our grade 1s. Now, next, moving on to the triggers, we have our 1 Light Dragon Deity of Honors Amartanoa. Its ability is, if you didn't already know, is its additional effect during the turn that you trigger it, your rear guards in the front row can also drive check, which is very, very nice. For this deck, not as much compared to a Bastion deck, but if you do run Lepisto, I don't run Lepisto just because it does use up a lot of Counterblast, and I do like to preserve the Counterblast for Hexaorb Sorceress and being able to sort of clear the field a little more with Square Tier Sorceress. Tier Square. Okay, but anyway, it's an overtrigger. Why would you not put one in? Next, we run 7 crits, 4 draws, and 4 heals. Now, the reason I run 7 crits instead of a rainbow with fronts is because I just like having more pressure with the crits, especially with Hexaorb Sorceress, because she is able to pump already. On a Persona Ride turn, you're guaranteed to be forcing for endgame as long as you have 1 critical trigger in your hand. So as long as that's happening, your opponent has to guard your Vanguard, or has to guard whatever unit you give the power to. So I find that this is the more comfortable way to play the deck for me. If you think otherwise, if you think that I should be playing front triggers, let me know down in the comments, and I'll try testing it out myself. So that is it. And of course we have the 4 draws because we need draws. Unlike the OTT of old, this does not give us any outright draws outside of tier squares when written on effect. So we need those extra draws. But anyway, guys, that is it for this deck profile. I hope you guys liked it. If you play Hexaorb Sorceress yourself, let me know, what do you think of the deck, and how do you play it? Because even though I have made the deck profile, I am still in the sort of testing phase for it. I have played a couple of test games with it, but still pretty well into testing. So that is it, guys. Make sure you don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment down in the comments section below, and also make sure that you tell your friends if you think that they'll like the content that we got going on here on the channel. And that is pretty much it. I am Jelly the Casual Card Gamer. Take care.